Sunflower Bean, a trio from New York, played the Criminal Records stage on Saturday, May 6th at Shaky Knees 2023. Ahead of the festival, we caught up about the band, the making of their album Headful of Sugar, and the role artists could play in booking shows and festivals of the future.
Hi, my name is Julia Cumming, and I am the singer, bass player, and one of the songwriters in the band Sunflower Bean.
I really appreciate you making time to speak with me on your tour. How long have you guys been touring this time around?
Well, we were on tour for a lot of last year since our album came out. And then right now we're just doing a bit more like festivals and just kind of flying out to where the shows are. So we're doing that like kind of shorter, more frequent trips, which I feel like is something that kind of happens like after you have an album come out. But it's cool because you get to see more stuff and experience more of the city. So I really like that.
Are the festival shows, do they feel different to you guys than your headlining tour did?
Yeah, I mean, I think festivals always feel a little different. I think that festivals are really social and people are with their friends and there's kind of this real summer energy no matter, what time of year the festival is that people just kind of really get into. And that's definitely different than, your own show with like the fans that are just there to see you. But I think overall, like, there is a really strong American music festival culture that just keeps growing. And I think it's a great way for people to see music they have been wanting to see and might not have a chance to. So it's a special part of being a musician for sure. And I spent many early years of my career just wondering what it would even be like to be on a festival stage ever. So I don't take it for granted.
Was there ever a dream festival that like in your early 20s you always thought of as like that would be the pinnacle of my career?
Well, we got to play like Glastonbury and like Reading and Leeds and stuff in the UK. And I think their festival culture is even more intense than American festival culture. It's like, but in a different way. I think it's kind of even more about the music, if that makes sense. I don't want to diss any festivals, but that was like a really, really big highlight. I think also we got to play Summer Sonic in Japan, which was really amazing early in our career. And I remember it was at like our set time was at 11 a.m. And we were like, oh no, what's going to happen? Like, is there going to be anybody here? And they were like, don't worry about it. This is how we do the festival. There's going to be a ton of people. And at literally 11 in the morning, and they're just like dead silent, like, but like holding up your t-shirt. And it's just like a real like culture shock. It was really cool.
Whoa. Okay, so that's really neat. You guys have been all over the planet in just like a short span of time.
Yeah.
I have never been to Glastonbury or really any festivals outside of the US. And I'm curious to hear more of like from your perspective about the differences that you're seeing in the crowd and in the show, like from the stage, from culture to culture or festival to festival.
Totally. I mean, I think that it's a really great way to experience other cultures and other musical cultures, and kind of like I said, the best thing I think a festival could do is bring like the opportunity of more kinds of music that people in that area might otherwise not get to see. Gives them a chance to really have that experience. I think like in the UK there's a lot more like family festivals, I would call them, where like you can kind of bring your kids and it's like a little bit more whimsical and a little bit artier. Also, I've always really wanted to play Shaky Knees. That's been a festival that I have been really hoping and excited to play for many years. And so when I found out that we were going to play it, I was really excited.
Oh, that's so cool. I have only been to this festival once before and I thoroughly enjoyed it. I had nothing bad to say coming away from it. The stages are great. They're all so different. They have their own little vibes somehow, I think because of the placement of the stages themselves. The lineup was really impressive as far as the variety of rock bands that they present. I think they do a really good job of touching on a lot of subgenres, and that to me is always really fun because you go there thinking you know exactly what you like, and then all of a sudden you wander past a stage with a style of music maybe you didn't think you liked, and the energy of live music pulls you in, and all of a sudden now you're a new fan
Yeah, that's the dream scenario for everyone involved.
for sure. So I'm really excited for you guys then. Will you be able to like hang out at all, or do you have to jet as soon as your set is over?
We're playing another festival in Florida a couple days later, so I do think we have to jet. But I'm going to try to soak up as much of the festival as I can. And I think, I'm really excited for the future of festivals like Shaky Knees, or kind of like you said, where, the booking is just really varied and it's meant to give the people there like a real experience, a musical experience of like exposure. Um, a festival that we played that I really loved is called Luck Reunion in Austin, Texas. I'm not sure if you've heard or have ever been, because I had never heard of it until we did it. But it's actually Willie Nelson's festival, and he has it on his ranch, which was an old Western movie set. So each stage is a different part of this set. So we played like the saloon stage, which literally is like you're playing inside a movie set saloon.
Oh, that's awesome.
And because it was Willie Nelson's festival, he has all this experience of like what an artist would really want, what an artist would really need from that experience. And his festival happens around South by. And this year at South by, we actually booked our own official showcase with like all our favorite New York bands. And so I feel like there's this, I'm hoping in the future of festivals that artists get a bigger chance in some of the booking and in some of that creative process of what it's like, because I think artists also really, really know what it feels like to be there. And I think there could be a cool future of like bringing them into some of that decision making. We're kind of seen a little bit as like a South by success story because we got our first label there, we got our first agents there. It was really good for us. And so we have a good relationship with South by, and we kind of brought them this idea, and we were like, we want to book our own official showcase within South by that is showing all of the bands that we love in New York, and kind of use our position as a band that has existed for a little bit and try to create an opportunity for the artists that we love around us, and also just kind of show our taste and our ability to curate this experience. And we also did it with Baby's All Right, which is like one of our favorite venues in the city, and another magazine called Perfectly Imperfect. It was a 2-stage experience, and they did the outdoor stage. And we had Hello Mary, who I love. We had Model Actress. We had Strange Ranger, Malice K, and we also had one more. We had Thus Love. Yeah, I was trying to remember. That is not in the right order, but those are all the bands that we really love in the city right now, and those are who we were able to put on our show. And it was a really special evening. The more we can show up for each other and do cool events and cool festivals and great shows, the better everything's going to go. So just one step at a time.
I am in full support of your vision for the future. I think more artists booking artists sounds incredible. Why not put the power in the hands of the people who are making the art anyway? I feel like the product will be better. So, what were some things that were present at that festival put on by Willie Nelson that you felt like weren't present at any other festivals that you think were the artist's touch, that he did this from an artist perspective, having gone and played festivals himself?
Yeah, I think that, festivals are kind of an extreme situation for everyone involved. Usually it's like weather, a lot of having to walk around. There's like, it's like a logistical extreme, and I think that there's a lot of ways that can be made more comfortable and made and streamlined, and really just the amenities and the kind of things that they were trying to provide. They're not like fancy amenities, but just like cool stuff, just making sure there's food, making sure you can be near the other artists and meet them, and just make sure that certain parts of the process are really smooth. I think artists really, with that experience, know the difference. And it feels really good. So I'm excited for the future.
Well, it seems like time is a really precious commodity to artists. And so having a festival run smoothly and being able to spend as little time as possible kind of in that limbo state, not really sure where you need to go, or maybe the moving from point A to point B just takes so long and it could have been so much simpler and so much quicker. So maybe that's an element of it is time.
Totally. And I mean, it's a hard thing to do. Every show, having a show that you just put on and goes well is always, no matter how many times you do it, it's always miraculous. And all the people that come together to make these festivals happen for the artists and for the fans, I have so much respect for them and like the and just what it takes, especially coming out of the pandemic and how much everyone lost as far as time and as far as work. It makes every show even more important and more special because you know what it's like. It's not like we took it for granted in the past, but it's not something that I don't think anyone expected to lose in the way that we did. And even though people aren't talking about the pandemic in the same way now, I think the emotional repercussions and the way that it makes you cherish the ability to do your art and perform your work, I think that is still a really intense feeling.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. Even as not a musician who lost the ability to perform my art just as like a radio DJ, like I couldn't record from my home, So there was just this whole year of music discovery that I feel like I lost, that I would have spent hours diving into new albums and staying on top of it, from week to week because I had to push out the new stuff. I couldn't let a week go by where I didn't listen to something new. That's how it would be in normal times. But when I was just at my house, I lost all the motivation to stay on top of it. And so then I look back on 2020 and the first part of 2021, because we also moved buildings during the pandemic. And I'm like, man, I am finding albums that came out during that time right now because I missed them then.
Mm-hmm.
So even though I did not have the same experience as you, I absolutely know what you're saying. And I totally agree with you. I take every second that I can do this now and even speak to people. I mean, nobody was doing interviews.
Yeah.
Nobody had it's like a reason. So I wasn't able to connect with that world in any way. It was very,
Yeah.
yeah, I definitely don't take these moments for granted anymore.
Yeah. And even when the album came out for us, it's like a lot of that first touring that we even did last year. Like it seems so far away, but it was really just last year. Like people still had masks on at shows. And there was a lot of reasons for people to not be at
Yeah.
shows. Because job security, if they get sick, they might lose their job. If they work with people, getting sick, going to a concert, it's just not worth it, and that whole world took a long time to return, especially in the US. But yeah, I totally hear everything you're saying, and every facet of our worlds as musicians or as people in the music industry or as just people in general was just like totally rocked. And, I think it just adds a preciousness to be able to make music and perform it in any way is really a privilege of creative work. And I think I just think about all this stuff a lot and try to stay really, really grateful. And even though it's just one, like Shaky Knees is just one show in your life, it brings me back to so many things. A, just wanting to play, wanting to be back out there on the road playing shows, and B, like being a kid in bands and thinking about festivals and just wondering what it would be like. I never went to a music festival as a fan. I only went as a performer.
Really?
So I didn't really know what they were like. I've only experienced them on the artist side.
That's so funny. Have you still not gone to any as a festival goer?
No.
Well, the majority of us have never gone as an artist. So I guess we're both getting one-sided experiences.
Yeah.
So were you all working on the Headful of Sugar album during the pandemic?
Yeah, we were. So we right before the pandemic started, we were supposed to go and do a whole bunch of stuff that couldn't happen. And it sort of created a basically like a 2-year process of us just being together in our space and working with our producer remotely and the label, and we just kind of kept going and going and going. There wasn't really nobody could really had any direction about what we should be doing, because kind of like you said, I mean, a lot of albums or friends that we had that did albums, a lot of those albums weren't really getting heard.
Yeah.
So we just kind of waited as long as possible. And, it was a challenge, but we did really grow, I think, as songwriters in that time. And I'm grateful for that experience for sure.
Well, I've watched a little bit of your, I guess, documentary on YouTube, and it looks like you did so much of the work yourselves, like so much of the recording. I mean, I'm struggling to understand what that space you were in was, like the physical house. Is this your like you're renting home? Like, do you live here? Because it looked like the whole space had just been turned into a studio.
Yeah, we were basically living together in upstate New York. We were trying to find a way to all, safely be together and continue our work, because we weren't together for the first like 3 months, 3 to 4 months of COVID, we were separate. And so, yeah, we just ended up turning this house basically into our studio. And luckily the weather was like good enough that we kind of could do that, because we had the dining room of the house was like the live room. The living room was like the control room. This little bathroom was like our vocal booth. And we just like, lived communally, like cooked every meal together and like ate it outside as long as we could until the weather, got messed up. We shot the video for our song Moment in the Sun in that house. We literally bought sod from a farmer and put it into this house, like put grass into this house. And yeah, it was where we did everything.
Well, there's no way you've made all the other albums this way. So like how do you feel like looking back on the experience? How do you feel about the product being made that way versus the other two albums that you all have put out?
I think it opened up my idea of how an album could be made and what that really takes. Olive, our drummer, she had really taught herself a lot about engineering and producing during that time. She was really learning and growing so that we could have that opportunity. Because there was nothing else. We were kind of up against a wall. And I think it was different than how we had done it before. There is so much great music that people make in their homes. And, we had never experienced that before. And yeah, I think it's a good part of our process to get to. And I think it gives us a lot more control in how we can make more music in the future. Because it's like, the more you can control that space, just the more you get to have a say in how it all turns out. Because we still love collaborating with people and working with our friends and just like creating work in all different kinds of ways. But I think the ability to record ourselves more at the time was a necessity, but now is like, I think, a real gift.
Yeah. Do you think you would ever make another album like that with that much involvement?
Yeah, well, we are together still all the time. And if we're not playing a show and if we're not doing something kind of show related, we're working on music or we're working on other stuff. This is the work is our lives. So we're always recording stuff and we always are like moving forward with that. I think, if you're not like on tour, you're like writing, so we're like entering another kind of creative process again. So I think that hopefully our ability to record together will like will continue to be a part of our next albums. You know, it's definitely something that we're going to continue doing and something that we do like all the time.
So how did you all meet? Like, how did Sunflower Bean come into a fruition? How did it become a band?
It became a band. Basically, we were all really young teenagers in the music scene in New York, where everyone was like 10, 15 years older than us. And we, eventually being kind of the weird kids sort of standing out, we were sort of drawn to each other because we knew that were interested in being in bands. And there's a certain particular person that kind of ends up that way. And if you find other people like that, as a person like that, it's good for you to stick together. And, I think that at that time we all had a lot to prove. I was in this kind of arty, weird kid band, and I played guitar and stuff, but I really wanted to play bass. And Nick played bass in the band that he was in, but he really wanted to play guitar. And Olive played some drums, but she also played saxophone, and she really wanted to like be this drummer. And I think all of us meeting at the time that we did, with the fire that we had within ourselves to show ourselves as musicians, I think that we just got really lucky. And I think, kind of like I mentioned, with a band, is like the hardest thing is finding people that feel similarly to you about making that choice, because it is a sacrifice. And I think we got really lucky, and it's a way that we try to carry on that respect for each other, because we know that we're crazy enough to go all the way.
I mean, when you make art, you're revealing a deep inner level of yourself. It's an intimate process, and to make art with other people, there has to be this level of connection and trust there, or it just won't be as authentic or as open or as real as it could have been. When you all make music together, what does that process look like?
It really depends on the song. I think the way that we operate, it is kind of like a lifestyle. And within a lifestyle, it's like we know what our week is going to look like, and we know the times that we're going to be together. And we have that muscle of working together to kind of know some of our expectations of what that is like. So I think within that sort of template, it gives us the space to say, like, I can bring something, or Olive can bring something, or Nick can bring something. And, it could be a phrase, it could be a melody, it could be even just like the idea of a song without any lyrics. It could be a whole song. There's so many ways that it can go. I think when you have a band, the idea is that the whole is greater than the sum of the parts, and so you're kind of dedicated to that idea, that us coming together and working together is enhancing the work because of everyone's taste and ideas. And I think when you kind of basically know the rules that you've made for yourself within that process, it gives you the freedom to actually create in a very free way, because you sort of know the outline of the work and of the world that you're building.
That is so beautiful, Julia. I can't wait to see you guys. I'm getting so excited.
Oh, thank you so much. I'm excited. As you can tell, I'm very excited for this festival. And I'm really glad that we got to talk today.
Yeah, thank you so much for your time. I know you probably have a really busy day, so I really appreciate it. This has been such a wonderful conversation.
No, it's all good. And I'm excited. Definitely come say hi at Shaky Knees. Would love to meet you in person.
Ah, absolutely. I would love that. Thank you, Julia.
Of course. And see you soon.
Thank you again to Julia from the band Sunflower Bean for speaking with me ahead of their performance at Shaky Knees 2023. For WUTC, I'm Haley Solomon. Thanks for listening.